Okay, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date, March 16th of 2023. Today I've been wanting to take a nap because I was up late, and today's the day that UPS is supposed to bring my Verizon new internet service. And of course we've had, the sirens went off. I'll probably put some of that video on here. I'm not sure if I'll want to edit it on here, if I'll just post to this. I'm not sure, but so I wanted to take a, I forget what time I went to bed. I don't know, 5 a.m. whatever, and I think I woke up at 8. Something like that, and I've been up because I do not want to miss, I'm excited and anxious to get my new internet service from Verizon, and it's supposed to be here, before 7 p.m. And it's only 5 p.m., but the sirens went off. I got some video of that from outside. I'm not sure if I'll edit. Well, I'm going to stop saying it. I have some video of stuff. I'm not sure if I'm going to edit or not to this video. Just take my word for it. And two, the sirens, they test the sirens at 1 p.m. on the first, I think, Monday of the month, I believe it is. And in this area here, inside, well, at least in this area, you probably will not hear the siren. And then, of course, a week or two ago, we had, 70-mile-an-hour winds that made the national news that came through and, did some damage. And so at about around 4 p.m. or something like that, approximately, I heard very loud siren going off that I've never heard before. So undoubtedly, Fort Worth, after this last thing, I'm sure, have installed one or more additional sirens because people couldn't hear, the siren. So anyway, that sounded good enough that I could hear it. And I went outside, made a little bit of video. My ex-wife, I don't think she would ever be able to hear the siren because she has her television going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And when she falls asleep, it's even still going, and she keeps it going. And then sometimes she'll wake up and she'll have the remote in her hand. She'll wake up and, turn turn it up. It's already running. Anyway, the local news here is saying that today, March 16th of 2023, that a tornado was seen in the downtown Fort Worth area. And maybe it was, but I doubt it. I doubt it was a tornado. But then I was in and out. Trying to get, I think I decided I wanted to be one of those people that you read about, that wants to get a video or make a good video for YouTube or something, and they fall off a cliff or step in front of a train or do something stupid. I guess that's what I wanted to do. I went outside. And anyway, I guess God wasn't looking favorably upon me because I didn't get hit by a tornado or anything. So then I came back inside. And it looked to me like the local TV station had been covering some type of basketball, I guess, that's going on, some type of thing that's because I think they did it yesterday too, and they interrupted Darlene's whatever, I don't know, game show she watches or whatever. She was complaining about that. They were doing it today, and the storm took over, and so they had to break away from it. Now, I'm not sure where the game is being played, so I'm not sure if the game was temporarily postponed or if the game was going on someplace else and it was being covered here. I don't really care. I'm not into sports at all. Never have been. Well, of course, when the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not a football fan, but when the Kansas City Chiefs are in a Super Bowl or whatever, well, I don't watch it exactly, but I follow along and root for them. And the same with the Kansas City Royals. You know, when they doing really, really well or something. I'm just not into sports. Anyway, I came in, and it looks to me like the TV station, you know, left the basketball thing, and the guy, I don't really watch local television either, but the guy who was in front of the weather map thing or whatever, you could tell, I could tell, and probably a lot of other people, I don't think that he was a weather person. But he was doing his best. I give him credit for that, trying, you know, but then there was somebody that was doing the drawing on the thing for him, and I have a feeling that probably this guy was a sports person, one of their sports people, and he probably was there because of, so he could do some kind of commentary, although I'm sure he wasn't providing, you know, but, you know, and I have a feeling the weatherman was probably at home, probably getting ready to come in maybe for a late, maybe he'd already been there. So, you know, this guy was kind of talking, then he was saying, yeah, well, you know, so-and-so says, whatever. And then there was I think the ex-wife must have switched channels, because there was a different station, local station, and there was a guy there, a different guy, and he was saying they had like it's one of the camera views that I think are up by the traffic department. Well, I guess they have cameras up, because a few years ago a tornado came through Fort Worth, I believe. Maybe it was Dallas. I can't remember, but it did come through. Maybe that's before I moved here. I can't remember. But from their traffic cams, you could see 18-wheelers up in the air. I mean, up in the air, twisting in the air, you know, like going around like this, 18-wheelers. But anyway, so I'm thinking maybe these were the same cameras, and they had them down there, and this guy saying, can you zoom in the camera? Can you go in here? And I think the same thing. I think they had somebody. I don't think he wasn't a weatherman. I'm sure. Again, maybe if you're going to school to be something, maybe being a weatherman is not the good thing to be, because it looks like there's maybe not enough of them. You know, maybe that means they need to turn some out. But anyway, he was telling the camera, you know, people whoever's controlling the camera. And I had a feeling it might have been the guy at home, you know, the weatherman at home doing it now, you know. And he says, zoom in, would you zoom? Okay, go in a little more, go in a little more. There, this little thing that's hanging down in here between these two buildings, this building here and this building here, this little cloud that is hanging down. He says, I think that might be a tornado. Could that be a tornado? No, it couldn't be a tornado, because it wasn't a tornado. And then he's saying, he knew a couple words. I see some rotation. I see some rotation. Well, he had better cameras, and he whatever, then I, I have asked because I'm watching his thing. But no, it wasn't a tornado, and no, I don't think he was seeing any rotation at all. And I mentioned before several times, I'm sure, when I was in high school, not only was I putting out a monthly publication, not only was I tracking Sputnik 1 and other satellites that went up, not only was I doing a radio program that was shortly after high school that was broadcast uh, around the world over shortwave radio 3 times a week, but I was also in the Civil Defense program. I was also in the Ground Observer Corps, where we watched for Russian aircraft over Kansas City, Missouri. And I think we all thought, like, if we see in Kansas City, Missouri, if you're outside the United States in another country, I'm sure you probably know where Kansas City, Missouri is. But I wonder because one of our presidents, he didn't know there was a Kansas City, Missouri. There is a Kansas City, Kansas, right next to, because the state line runs through there. He didn't know that there was a Kansas City, Missouri. And God help us. But anyway, so when the Ground Observer Corps finally had, when the weather department and the Defense Department and everybody had the satellites, that or the radar that they needed, then they decided, well, they didn't need the Ground Observer Corps standing post. And wait, no, that was okay. Never mind. We were watching for Russian aircraft, and if we saw Russian aircraft, what we did is we watched the sky. We stood 2-hour shifts, and I could go over there and bring you over my Ground Observer Corps, little thing. But we were Russian. We thought, if we see that, that would be interesting, because what we did is we watched and reported all aircraft, and that would have been, what we did is we dialed operator, and we took priority. The Ground Observer Corps volunteers, and it wasn't just young people like me. I was young once, by the way. I know it doesn't look like I could have ever been young, but we dialed the operator, and we took priority over everything. I'm sure there must have been somebody. I'm sure if the president wanted to talk to somebody, or the vice president, or the chief of staff, of course they had military communications and things, but I'm sure we probably didn't take, but they needed to connect. What we did is we dialed operator and said aircraft for flash, and then we gave our the code for our location. I mean, it wasn't a top secret code or anything, but we gave that, and then the operator plugged us through immediately, and if they needed to disconnect somebody, they disconnected them. And when I called in, one time, they couldn't connect me to the Air Defense Command or whatever it was that they would normally plug me into from Kansas City, Missouri, but I got to Ontario, Canada. I got connected to the person had a French accent, Canadian Air Defense Command in Canada. And then we gave the report. But, it was like, that would have been an interesting thing to, dial and say, give our code and then say, aircraft flash. And of course they would know that it was, Kansas City, Missouri, the middle of the United States. Aircraft flash, 10, Russian bombers. I forget now how we did it. Multi-engine. I forget what the blanks we had to fill in. They made it very simple because they knew we weren't, we couldn't say, we didn't have to learn that much. Not the way somebody would be if you were on a ship, or something like that, Navy ship. Then you'd need to know what that, stuff like that. But anyway, so then when they did it, when Ground Observer Corps was done away with, we were trained as, they didn't want us to go to waste, as weather observers, so we had to go through the training or whatever. And that was really good for, I know it was good for Kansas City, Missouri, because before that, there really weren't any, for Kansas City, Missouri, I don't know, maybe some small town someplace around Kansas, there weren't any trained weather observers, so what you had was a police officer or a fireman or something, in their vehicle or in front of their building or something, looking up, and because they were a policeman or a fireman, when they called in, oh, I see a tornado, and that would immediately, they would immediately take TV off. They'd go to the weather thing and pull up, the sirens would sound, and they would, TV would go, and you'd be losing your TV shows, which weren't very good. I think we only had about 3 TV stations back then. But sometimes it'd be like for hours. And so when they had trained weather observers, and by the way, amateur radio operators also, did observing, and they were trained. And my license just expired, and I can't figure out how to renew it. The FCC site is so I've given up on that. But amateur radio operators, they have Skywarn and things like that, and every year they go through, training. And then too, I worked hospital security for 30 years, and well, not at the first hospital, the Catholic hospital. They didn't want to waste their, I guess they believed in God, was going to protect the hospital. But the other hospitals, security was responsible, for, well, depending on, the Weather Bureau and other things that come in, but we were trained, and then we also had to, oh God help us, once a year we had to take the VCR around to the various departments, and all the employees had to watch the tape, about what to do in case of tornado. So anyway, this guy, this is all because of this guy, No, he was not seeing a tornado. But you want to top that, when I was working at in my hometown, small hospital, and there was a nurse. I didn't like her. She had worked at the main hospital, and I'd worked at the main hospital, and I didn't like her down there. She was an ER nurse. And she was working, when I went out to the hospital out there where I lived, she went out there too when they built it. And she was day shift or whatever, but believe me, I know it's going to sound, it was a beautiful day. I was 6 p.m. I was coming because I remember, 2 days a week, Saturday and Sunday, I came in at 6 p.m. There was no day shift security, just, night security. And there was just 2 of us total for cover the place. And I worked 12-hour shifts on Saturday and Sunday. So I come in at 6 p.m., a beautiful day. It was a wonderful day. Great day, sun is shining, birds are singing, everything is wonderful. And there's one little cloud up in the sky. One cloud. I swear to God, cross my heart. At my age, I don't want to say hope to die. But there was one little cloud up there. And this nurse, she was just coming into work. Actually, I think she just started about an hour before. I think she went outside for some reason to enjoy the sunshine, I think, and everything. I think she was talking to another nurse, and she said, "Oh, Jim, look, report that. Well, she didn't know that, But, she said, "It's a tornado." I said, "No, it's not a tornado." Yes, it is. It's a tornado. No, it's not a tornado. And then I went on inside. Actually, I was an amateur radio operator, of course, and uh, the location of the hospital that I was at was where tornadoes usually came from that direction, into Kansas City, Missouri. So the Weather Bureau really, at night, where I'm talking 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m., their radios, their radar would pick up something, and they couldn't detect whether it was I forget exactly what they were missing. The radar just was not good for it. They needed somebody with eyes. And so they would activate, their thing, and there would be a ham radio operator who would be net control. And then he, probably the only, he would go on to the, frequency, the ham radio frequency, and say, is there, anybody, in such and such an area? And at 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, 5, whatever, I was usually the only one, especially from that direction, because that's usually where tornadoes usually came, from that direction. And so then I would answer, and I'd go out and take a look and then report back. And nobody else, we were, net control, and, well, of course, the Weather Bureau was there. And then, of course, the ham radio operator was either there, because they had it set up there, or he could have been at home or someplace, doing the net, because it didn't matter where you were. But, well, the net hadn't been called, because it wasn't, But anyway, what I thought about doing, but I didn't do it, and that would have been stupid of me to do it, and I might have ended up with egg on my face. But when she went inside, I had my ham radio with me, I thought about when going inside and then just going up and taking my radio and, called, N0 UWY is, well, I forget what we called it now. Well, I would have said like net control, but I wanted to, I would have, and then the Weather Bureau, it would, that, it would have been a bit of a dumb idea. It would have had to probably come out of egg on my face. But I kind of wanted to, to kind of show her up, but if embarrass her or somebody, it wouldn't have worked. Because with a lot of people, something like that doesn't work, and you end up, if you're trying to show off, before I was in grade school, I think, a tornado came through Kansas City, Missouri, actually Ruskin Heights, but that's, I don't know, it's sort of like I don't think they had their own city government or whatever, but Ruskin Heights, you can look it up on Wikipedia, the Ruskin Heights tornado. A tornado came through that area and did major, major damage. And so how many years later would that have been? God. Well, I can't remember. But my wife and I, we had a tropical fish shop for 4 years, and we sold that. And then I started a patrol service because I knew that, well, what actually happened is, we had the first year of the tropical fish shop, it was her idea. Well, she wanted to get away from her parents. She was 18. I was like 26, well, when we started. And her parents owned a bar, and my parents frequented their bar. And her mother was telling, I was, like I said, 26. She was 18. Her mother was telling my mother how great Darlene was, that she heard how great her daughter was, and my mother was telling her how great her son was. And so my mother got the phone number for Darlene and gave it to me. And I said, no. I took it. No intention of calling, you know. But I put it someplace, and I forget what happened. A couple weeks later or whatever. I'm not sure if that's when the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, or I can't remember what. But no, I think that's when I was working as a welder. I think this is what it was. I started out working I started out worked years as a welder, different places. So I was working for the KW Dart Truck Company, KW Kenworth Trucks. They had their building there for those kind of trucks, and then next to it was Dart trucks, and those trucks are the biggest trucks you've ever seen. You know, just imagine the biggest truck you've ever seen and double it. And that's where I worked in a body shop. And I started out midnight shift, and then they did away with the midnight shift, and then I went to the second shift. And then, driving home, and the way I went, I passed the 63rd Street drive-in, and it would be just at the time when the drive-in was letting out. You don't know what a drive-in is, do you? Oh, you whippersnappers. People actually drove their cars out and into an area where they had a gigantic screen, and then you pulled in next to these posts, and there was a speaker you could hang over your window, and you could sit there and neck and watch movies. But some people brought their kids, of course, you know, and not everybody was necking in there. Just half of the people. But anyway, I'd be coming home, and I'd see all these cars would be coming my way because they were heading into town, sort of, you know. And there'd be a car coming towards me, and it looked like just one person behind the wheel. But no, it was a driver behind the wheel, and he had a girl on his lap or whatever. And so I started thinking, oh man, I'm 26, this is not good. And so I think that's what made me, and I called. And when I called, Darlene, of course, well, she knew how I had got that her mother, I'm sure, told her, hey, Jim and Betty Howard, I got their son, and he's 26 or whatever, and I got his, I got his number. Well, I guess probably didn't have my number. Probably I had their number. Anyway. But so I called Darlene, and she was setting up her aquarium. Her mother was there. They were in the aquarium. And so that's the phone number I got. I think they were trying to... and so anyway, I called and asked her if she'd like to go to a movie, a drive-in movie. And, of course, she told me later that she didn't want anything to do with a 26-year-old man whose parents were alcoholics. I'm not sure she put it that way, but she probably did. And so she said, well, I've got to fill these fish tanks and everything. And I said, well, why don't I come over and just talk to you there at the fish shop for a little bit? And so I went over and went in, and she said, well, I'm sorry, I don't know what her mother was saying. But anyway, I filled the fish tanks with water and said, let's go to the drive-in movie. And so she didn't know how to get out of it. God help me, that was a mistake. Shortly after that, we got married. God, that was a mistake. We were married, 12 years. God, that was a mistake. And, but, so we had the tropical fish shop for 4 years. Well, then, too, I was working, making really good money. as a welder. Uh, and she wanted me to take, take over the shop. I mean, not take it over. She still ran it, and I did all the work, which that's fine. I mean, she was handicapped. She was on crutches and what have you. She had polio when she was like 5. But so anyway, the first year we had the shop, we did great business. That would be during the wintertime, or when cold weather, not during the summertime. Summertime came around and bang, where went our business? A lot of people didn't have air conditioning then, and so our business, what in the hell happened? But then it picked up, So then she decided, well, we need to have something to sell during, so we got in water hyacinths and stuff like that, in addition to the fish, and nobody bought those. And then the next year, where we got in parakeets and some giant, parrots. But anyway, at some point we decided, we agreed, okay, if for this 4th year, at the end of the 4th year, if business hasn't increased by such and such, we're just going to, sell the business and, move on to something else. And so, we did. But towards the end, I started. Back then, it was pretty neat. I don't know if they have those anymore. I don't look at magazine. I haven't looked at magazine racks, or whatever. But they had these magazines. I guess now the internet would be that, YouTube or something. But they were in how to make money, how to get rich. Or these had these magazines, a whole bunch of them. And then they had different things where they took your money and nobody got rich. Hey, sort of sounds like YouTube, doesn't it? But there was an ad in there for a place that did printing, and so I sent in, and they sent a giant notebook or whatever with these, and it had business cards, different samples of all the the script and the colors and that kind of stuff, and envelopes and stuff like that in it. And I didn't think that I could actually. Well, in my life, I didn't think I could possibly sell something. I didn't think that was in me to be a salesperson. But I went out and I did not have the courage to go to some, IBM, if they had a headquarters. They didn't. If they'd had a thing there, I mean, I would not have been able to go to IBM or some major corporation and go in and say, "Where's your purchasing department?" Or one that had expected me to be in a suit and a tie. I had to wear a tie when I was, a security officer. Sometimes during had to wear. Do we wear a tie or wear a hat? Well, anyway, but wore a tie for something. Anyway, I just wouldn't have been able to call. I wouldn't have been able to go into a purchasing department with 50 people working there, and somebody's in charge of this and somebody's in charge of this and that kind of stuff, and I wouldn't have been able to go in and say, well, you can have 10,000 of these, and whatever, and the guy would say, I'm sure he said something like, or what if we order 100,000? How much of a discount? That wouldn't have worked for me. I'd go, I don't know, But I called on small businesses in that area that I knew. And I went in, and there quite a few of them, their door would be smashed in. By the time I got there, somebody had put wood up until the glass people could get there, or something. What happened? Well, somebody broke in last night or whatever. And that happened repeatedly. And anyway, these people, I was selling them to. I mean, they were buying because I knew I was like a. They knew who we were, and too. I mean, I was a small business person. I just knew how to. But this company, if I sold, 10, and which was usually something, like, okay, I'll take 1,000 business cards and some envelopes. Go to another place. Okay, I'll take 500 business cards and some letterheads. And what it was, it was like small orders. And two, most of these places that I called on, they were busy. And so I'd go in and then I'd say, oh, it's okay, I'll wait till you take, or we'd be, they'd be picking out the color and the script and that kind of stuff that they wanted. And then a customer would come in and I'd say, take care of your customer, saying, oh, and then the person would come back. I might spend an hour in there and they might buy 500, business cards or 1,000 or something. And, but I really enjoyed it. But the company, then I'd send the orders in every day. The company paid. I'd go to the mailbox and there'd be a stack of envelopes from this company. Each order that you turned in, they didn't combine it at the end of the week or anything. They sent, the I forget what it was, the $2.50 commission would be. Wasn't that a Steinfeld episode, something like that? I'd open it here, okay, $2.50, whatever. So, I mean, that wasn't working. But also what I did, the catalog. When, this person would buy a certain kind of business cards, certain color or whatever, I would make sure I came by to make sure he got his order, and then I would take, and I would bring him some plastic things I said, put these on your counter here and put the cards in them. And when you're talking to somebody, and they ask the price of the television set or whatever, you can write it on there and give them the card, that kind of stuff. But I'd take one of their, cards, and then I'd go home and I would rubber cement it on top of the one that matched it. And that was pretty neat because after a while, when I'd go into these businesses, I'd flip open the thing. Maybe I'd go in and maybe I could tell but I'd go in and I'd say, well, take a look at this, flip it open. Oh, yeah, that's Smith's Secretarial Service. I said, yeah, well, that's, Joe's car repair shop, that kind of, that worked out really well for me. And, but anyway, I could see that I couldn't make, because it took too long. There wasn't enough, But then about that time, there was very few. There was Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo. There was very few security companies, like in the Yellow Pages or whatever. You go there now and probably, well, I don't know, do they still have Yellow Pages? But probably now half of the Yellow Pages is, security or whatever. So I told Darlene, I said, I think what we need to do is start a security service, a patrol service. Now, actually, I didn't say that. I mean, what happened is, okay, I don't know anything about security, so I looked in the newspaper. Okay, what was the first one? Burns, I think it was. They had an ad for a dispatcher. And dispatcher, okay, I could learn a lot that, I could learn, so I went down, they hired me, and what it was, I figured, like 911 center, of course they didn't have anything like even the police didn't have anything, but I thought something like that. I go in, okay, you're hired, and there was a card table with a regular telephone on it, and then an instruction book, and okay. And so I thought, oh my God. And I didn't need a uniform, of course. And a guy calls in drunk. Well, several people called in drunk, security people. And then other people called in sick. Somebody called in from way out in Kansas, well, not in the Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas area. Some all out in Kansas City, Kansas. And said he couldn't make it to work. And they told me, tell him, we really need you to. No. Nope. So then they said, okay, what we do, we got some uniforms here. We'll send you. Now, you had to be commissioned, by the way, but anyway. But, so I said, but anyway, okay, so I go in the closet there. The shirts were down to here. And then I just said, gentlemen, I'm sorry, I quit. But I always used that, like when I was trying to get a job in security, or when I was talking about something like this, I'd say, I work for Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo. Oh, I know, yeah, the Board of Police Commissioners, that's when I used that. The police department finally decided that they wanted security to go to their police range and have a half a day of some instruction and go to the police range. And there was all the Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo, the hospital that I worked for, all the hospitals had directors of security, and they all had a security directors of Kansas City organization, and they met, and all these people chipped in and got a lawyer to stop the Board of Police Commissioners from requiring their security people to go to the police range instead of to a private range, and some other thing, a little tiny thing. And I just happened to go. I wanted to see what the Board of Police Commissioners. I'd been licensed by them with a whole bunch of different places that I worked over those years as security. But so I went to the city hall or wherever it was held, and the commissioners, 5 of them, were up there, and the place was packed, and I just happened to sit, and I had no intention of saying anything or doing anything. I just wanted to say, well, hey, how's this work? What's going on? The guy next to me got up, and I could tell, that he had probably a one-man service, maybe, security patrol service like I had. And we had that for like a year and a half. And he got up, and this lawyer who was hired by all these security companies, Burns, Pinkerton, Wells Fargo, Wackenhut, and and their hospital association and all that kind of stuff. And this lawyer laid into this guy, and this guy sat down. And that was that lawyer's mistake, because I was the next one up. I didn't make him cry, the lawyer, but I know I didn't check the obituaries. He might have gone home and hung himself, because I did a number on him. And afterwards, and of course, when the meeting was over, one of the members of the Board of Police Commissioners came over and came up to me and said, Mr. Howard, I've got your name in here. Could I get your phone number and everything? She says, I think we would like to have you, I forget how she put it. I'm not sure she said, we'd like to counsel, talk with you about things and whatever. And, I forget. It's been a long time. And of course, my director of security came over with I was working at Trinity, the director of security from Trinity, who I worked for, he came over. And the director of security from uh, was it Baptist? Can't remember now. Baptist, I think it was. I can't remember. Should remember. But they came over together. I mean, they're, you know, my company was paying, and, you know, paying them to, you know, pay for this lawyer who probably went home and committed suicide after I talked to him, or after I made my little speech there before the people. But, so we only had the patrol service for about a year. I liked it, private patrol service, because I took a small area. Like I worked for a patrol service in order, you know, to see how the thing worked. I didn't just start a patrol service, you know. But that was like the beginning. There was very few, you know, if we could have continued. Anyway. Oh. Well, I signed up everybody. I did everything. I signed up everybody. I patrolled. I signed up all the customers. Now, in a local weekly paper or whatever, I had a display ad that said Merchant Security Service, a picture of a badge, and it said Merchant Security Patrol or whatever, and I think I had something that arrest vandalism or something like that. And the customers that we had, they thought we were super. I mean, you know, because I did a good job, a really good job, you know, I mean. Well, there was a lady, Smith Secretarial Service. She was in charge of the Hickman Mills. She was president of the, I want to say PTA, but no, it's a business type, whatever that thing. Not Better Business Bureau, but so everybody knew her. And there was one night, well, there was more than one night, but there was just one night, and the rain was just coming down. I mean, it was like a fire hose, and I pulled up, you know, at Smith Secretarial Service there on Hickman Mills Drive, and checked to make sure the front door was locked, and I looked, you know, I didn't just, you know, rattle the door. I checked, you know, I looked around, you know, looked in, whatever. And then I drove around to the back, and they had there was like a, it was like a fire hose or whatever, water pouring down there. It was coming down, and I thought, God damn, man. And there was no way to, you know, check that door without walking into Niagara Falls or whatever. And I thought, oh, she always, man, she is so good about everything with her business. I know she checks her, you know. I thought, nope, I've got to do my job. I got out, water, you know, and she'd left her door unlocked. And so I notified her because I knew she'd want to be notified. Well, I think also I don't think there was any way I could lock it. You had to have a key to lock it also. Because there's a lot of businesses that, you know, you find them unlocked, and you call them, and they'll say, well, just go ahead and lock the door for me. Anyway, she spread the word, you know, about us. But anyway, I was signing up everybody. Nobody ever called from that ad in the paper, you know, that I paid for. It was all me going in and signing them up. But that's kind of funny. No, that was different. Okay, that was a different thing. Let me tell you that. The tropical fish shop was called Siggy's Aquarium. Darlene's older sister was smoked, and she called her Siggy. So she named the aquarium Siggy's Aquarium. And we had it for 4 years. So many years later, I was working security at Research Medical Center, a big, hospital, and I thought I was using my I'm waiting for my Verizon thing to show up. I wonder if I'm hoping it's not being because the rain has stopped now, so I'm hoping the UPS guy is going to come today. I'm anxious about it. Anyway, I was working at the hospital, security. I never told anybody. I was a welder for a whole bunch of years. I never told anybody I was a welder. Never told anybody I worked for the post office. I never told anybody that my wife and I had a tropical fish shop. I never told them that. What else did I do? All this stuff. I never, I just never I didn't tell any of the security officers. Some of them knew, found out. I didn't tell them that I had worked, at other hospitals, security or whatever. But anyway, this guy comes over. Okay, when we had the tropical fish shop, there was this little boy, lived down the street. He saved up his money, and he would come up and buy some fish or whatever. And we actually ended up giving him, some fish and stuff like that. And whatever. But so anyway, he grew up. He grew up and he became a teacher, and he taught at the Hickman Mills Clinic, a science teacher. And I didn't know that he ended up, I guess he ended up sort of buying our old fish shop. Sort of, the way, because that was a long story. Anyway. But anyway, so I'm in the emergency room. It's kind of busy, and there's 3 or 4 security officers there with me. Stuff's going on. Nothing where we needed to be, gun-ho or whatever. And this grown man comes over to me, and he says, "Siggy, Mr. Siggy, how you doing?" And that was him. This little boy grew up, and he was a teacher at Hickman Mills Clinic. And then he said, "Oh, I own a fish shop, well, pet supply, fish and pet supply, at Truman Corner Shopping Center." Truman Corner, because Harry Truman, former president of the United States, used to own that as farmland. And anyway, so we talked. And then after he left, the other security officers were looking at me like, does Jim have, does he have an alias? Has he gone to prison? What's going on? I had to explain. Well, we used to own a tropical fish shop. But the tropical fish shop, we actually, like when I was doing that figuring, I wanted to get back up a little bit. Back up a little bit. We had that patrol service. I liked doing that. And we were bringing in money. Oh, I mentioned this, I think, one time before. It's something that bothers me when I think about it. When I had the patrol service, there was a liquor store that I went to, like at 9 o'clock at night or something like that, and I went in. And it was in a bad location for a liquor store. Highways converging, and that was the only place there. Highways, interstates, bad location. If you're going to rob someplace or something, I don't want to give anybody any ideas. Went into it, and there was a couple in there working. And then they said, "Are you for a patrol service?" I said, "Yes." "Oh, please, sir, we really would like for the boss to take your service. Now, could you come in at 2 a.m. in the morning? You know, and I said, I'll come in. So I came in, and the boss was there. He, you know, whatever, and he just, don't want it, don't need it. And I said, you know, I was going to say, you know, I'll patrol for a month your place. You don't have to pay me. And at the end of the month, you know, but he wouldn't let me do anything. It was like, no, he didn't throw me out or anything, but, and I left, and I just thought, oh, those poor people, because I could tell, you know, they were frightened. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, the Kansas City, Missouri police, before the midnight shift, you know, went on duty, they went around and they checked their buildings, I guess. A lot of them wouldn't do that. But some police officer, for some reason, either did that or he was driving by and saw something suspicious. And, you know, the door was unlocked and the lights were on, and those 2 people weren't there, and those 2 people, you know, didn't make it home after their shifts. And a few days later, they found their bodies out on some road. Well, I don't know where they found the body. I mean, they found the body someplace. And that bothered me. I wish it wouldn't have done any good with that guy, but anyway, back to where I was going. When we had the patrol service, we were bringing in, you know, but what I could have done is I could expand it, but then the service would have, you know, because there was a patrol service. By the way, I worked for them a short period of time in order to get background information that I needed and stuff about this, you know, how to do a patrol service and stuff. But they had one officer, they had a whole bunch of cars. They had a really neat, nobody wants to do those kind of things, but they had their spotlight through the ceiling, and you automatically, you knew, you know, by doing that. Now, police departments that I worked for, or, you know, they wouldn't put nobody's going to drill holes through ceilings anymore on vehicles. It, you know, depreciates the value of it or whatever. And so they'd have the thing on the side of the car, and it you know, it's okay, but not. Or they had one that we had for the patrol service, or for the hospital security or whatever. We had a vehicle where it had an electric thing, you know, that half the time that where's the light, you know, it's shining up in the sky, or, you know, back with it, you know, that. But anyway, Overland Park, Kansas, I told you this company out there that had this patrol service. They had one officer who covered all of Overland Park, a big city, a major city. Every car dealer, along Metcalf had a, you know, car lot, used car lots, new cars. They signed up all those because their salesman would sign up anybody. And he signed up all kinds of places. And like a sort of a nursing home or whatever, multi-floor nursing, something like that. And he, you know, he was a salesman, and he got money when he made a contract. I was patrolling all of Overland Park, and they had me patrolling a couple businesses out in Olathe, a totally small town, a little further out the road. They had me, he signed up a bar and I think the thing was had to close at 2 a.m. and he signed up. Well, it was already signed up when I, hired in, but a bar and security's job, my job. I didn't work for him very long, but was to get everybody to leave at 2 a.m. The bartender would say, "Okay, we're closing. No more drinks," and everybody would, not go. And to top it off, it was built next to a naval air station. So there were, I'm kidding. I wasn't worried about the sailors, but the Marines. But anyway, too, when I was called out there, to take over this, patrol route for the city, and the lieutenant or whatever said, "Now when you go in there, take your nightstick when you go in." Of course, I was armed, but take your nightstick when you go in. So the first night that I had, they just gave me a list. They didn't ride with me, nobody rode with me around, nobody showed me, So I go out there and I pull up and I thought, that lieutenant said I should take the nightstick in there, and I thought, nope, I'm not taking a nightstick in there. One of those Marines is going to shove it up my ass. So I just went on in. And then after the bartender said, the bar's closed or whatever, and a couple people got up, I guess. But most of them didn't, And then I said, the bar's closing, you all need to leave. And then this Marine came over to me, a young guy came over, and he said, "I don't think I'm going to leave. And what are you going to do about it?" And I said, "Well, I got a job to do." And I said, "I don't know what's going to happen, but you're going to leave." And then he laughed, and he turned to the other way. And too, he'd have wiped. Yeah, I think he would have wiped the place up with me. And then he laughed. And he patted me on the back or something, or rather, not in a negative, not in a, whatever. And after, I never had any trouble, But back to with that patrol service that we had, my wife and I, we were bringing in money. We paid the bills. We bought food. We had 4 kids. Did we have 4 kids at that point? Can't remember. Maybe we just had 2. Can't remember. But what I realized was, we're not making enough money to buy a new car. And if you're doing a patrol service, you're running all the time, your vehicle, and you need it, Of course, I maybe could have bought, maybe even a used police vehicle. I mean, not with lights, or, not with red lights or anything like, not to look like a police vehicle. Some people had patrol services like that, and they did something like that, not red lights or anything, but no, I wasn't going to, In fact, the material I had, even the ad I had, I forget what I put, we're not your police service, we're a private security service, blah, 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 a couple of little paragraphs, small thing, just so that I wasn't going to have any problem with the police department saying I was pretending to be a police officer or something. But, we couldn't afford to, we wouldn't have been able to, if we bought a car that was used, and it broke. One time, we had to use CB radio at that time. This is before cell phones, before all that kind of stuff. So, for our patrol service. Now, the other company that I worked for, Watchman Service, they had, FM commercial from Motorola or something like that installed in all the cars. No, it wasn't. Well, maybe it was, but they used higher frequency so, lower frequency, because they had the long whip antennas like you might, I don't know if you do anymore now with digital and all that kind of stuff, but had a long antenna on it, like the county used and that kind of stuff. But, so we needed a way to communicate. And CB was big back then. And the CB bands, the frequencies, everybody was on their screen. Nobody used their call sign that the FCC issued. The FCC, I think, even stopped issuing call signs eventually. But the Channel 9 was to be used for emergency purposes only. So what we did, which would be a violation, but everybody else was fine, not so much on that. But and then Channel 19, I think, was the truckers used that. What I did was I got an antenna that polarized differently than everybody else's thing, and so it cut out a whole bunch of that, and the interference or whatever. Now, I didn't polarize the antenna at home, but so anyway, the when it got late at night, I would call on the radio and just say, I'd use my call sign, but and then I'd say code 9, and that was assigned to the wife, or she'd call and say code 9 when she was going to go to bed, but I'd also call and just tell her code 9 so she could go to bed and whatever. And there was no. Now, there's times when I was patrolling, I would come across like a car accident or a fire even. And from Kansas City, in fact, let's see, from Kansas City, Missouri, in the south part of Kansas City, Missouri, the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, they had a gigantic CB antenna up, and somebody monitored the radio there. So there's times I called in, used the call sign on Channel 9 to Kansas City, Kansas PD and said, hey, there's a car accident here, doesn't appear to be any injuries at such and such, whatever. Or there was a fire and that type of stuff. So that's the reason we didn't continue the patrol service, was I just knew it was going to be, we couldn't afford a new car, and of course, security services went on to, I think, half of the yellow pages. You don't know what yellow pages are, were filled with security services. Okay, I think this is enough. It is now, what time? 6:18. My thing, they said, would be here by 7. My Verizon, the sun is shining out there. I'm just going to upload this, and maybe I'll throw some of that video together of the storm here, and well, maybe not, I don't know. Thank you very much for watching. By the way, the last video I made was jerky. God, I hope this one isn't, because this is an hour one. If it is, I'll probably delete it. I don't know. Thank you very much for